tipping on communities in the West Midlands. And let me start by saying it is a pleasure to serve under your chairmanship today, Mr Stringer, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to raise this important issue, particularly as it coincides with the conclusion of the Great British Spring Clean, which I know many colleagues on both sides of the House take part in. Now, when it comes to fly tipping, I know it's not only a growing concern in my own constituency of Aldridge Brownhills, but across the wider West Midlands region too. And in fact, beyond. And I've noticed on my social media of late and in my inbox, once people were aware of this debate, a number of people have been in touch to say that they have fly tipping issues locally as well. Because, of course, in some areas it has become a persistent and damaging problem. And it's vital that we come together to explore practical solutions and collaborative efforts to tackle its impact on our communities. I often consider litter and fly tipping to be an expensive nuisance, and to me that sums it up in a very short and succinct way. Now, Keep Britain Tidy, which does so much to raise awareness on the issue of fly tipping and littering, estimates that local authorities in England dealt with 1.15 million fly tipping incidents in 2023-24, which was up by 6% on the year before. And 60% of all fly tipping involves household waste, and it's costing the economy a staggering £1 billion, with enough fly-tipped waste to fill Wembley Stadium 30 times over. It really is quite shocking that in this day and age we see this amount of fly tipping ongoing. But of course, for those of us who represent the West Midlands, we are also dealing with our own fly tipping and littering situation thanks to Labour-run Birmingham City Council's bin strike. And I'm a little bit disappointed that there are no Birmingham City representatives on the opposite benches, but I do believe there's a colleague from Birmingham Northfield. There we go. Well, I'm really pleased that you have been able to join us, because there is a large number of Labour MPs in Birmingham City. Now, of course I will.
I thank the honourable member for giving way and congratulate her on today's debate. A deposit return scheme where you bring plastic bottles and cans back to the shop and get your money back using a reverse vending machine has reduced black sack litter in many countries across Europe and the world. So could the honourable member explain why her party voted against a deposit return scheme when it was voted on in Parliament on the 21st of January this year, despite having previously backed it as part of the solution to fly tipping?
The Honourable Lady makes an interesting point, and when it comes to recycling schemes, it is something that I absolutely support, and the Conservatives do more broadly. When it came to that specific vote, which I believe was before the Honourable Lady came into this House, it wasn't a UK-wide vote. I think that was the issue. But when it comes to recycling and bottle deposit schemes and return schemes, it's absolutely something that we need to be working cross-party to find the best way forward. But it has to work with individuals, with communities, and with the producers as well. Now, the current and ongoing bin strike in Labour-run Birmingham is now having a very detrimental effect on every one of us who share a border with Birmingham. For example, my honourable friend for Solihull West, who cannot be with us today, Solihull West and Shirley, his constituency abuts Hall Green in Birmingham. On one side, the bins are piling up, whereas over the border on the other side, in Conservative-run Solihull, the streets are clean. And in the past few weeks, similarly, my honourable friend for Bromsgrove and the villages has highlighted the similar situation on the border of his constituency. But with the... Yeah, of course I will.
I am grateful to her for giving way, and she highlights an issue that affects my constituency as well as the member for Bromsgrove. Given that party politics has been mentioned, I just want to put it on record that there have been disruptive bin strikes in Conservative-run authorities over recent years. Wiltshire, Arder, Worthing all spring to mind. Does she agree that there is no particular party pattern here, and that Conservative-run authorities are by no means immune to the issues that she raises.
Party political debate, because actually I think there is so much cross-party support when it comes to tackling these issues. But what I would say when it comes to Birmingham, the size and the magnitude of it is my biggest concern of all, and making sure that it actually gets sorted out. So as I was saying, as a number of my right honourable and honourable friends have been raising this as well. But with the amount of uncollected waste rising to a staggering, this is the key thing, 21,000 tonnes, it's an absolutely eye-watering amount. And what's also eye-watering is we now have cats as big as rats, no, rats as big as cats, hurtling around the city. And we all know that these squeaky blinders, as they've now been coined, just do not respect borders. There are some residents in the city who are also, I have heard, burning the waste, as they simply don't know when the next bin collection will take place. I have staff members who live in Birmingham who haven't had their waste collected for over a month and who've had no recycling collection services all year. This isn't right. It's not fair, and so it's only right and proper that we call on the government to sort this out. Now, like my right honourable friend, the member for Sutton Coldfield, who's not able to be present with us today, but he's in agreement with me, the situation that residents face is quite abominable. And some residents are taking responsibility by seeking to go to the recycling centres, sensible, but this is having a knock-on effect in constituencies such as mine, with people seeking to access our recycling centres in Aldridge, and on one occasion it was reported that it had brought gridlock to Aldridge. And it's also worth remembering that when this happens, it's Walsall Council taxpayers who are left footing the bill. But at its worst, as has been observed in my honourable friend for Bromsgrove's constituency, people are driving out of the city to dump rubbish in the absence of councillors doing their job and sorting out the bin strikes and cleaning up the mess. And we now have a bin strike, which is a major public health emergency, as the Minister will be very aware. Andy Street said last week this is having a major impact on the reputation of Birmingham and the wider West Midlands, which will take years to recover from. Birmingham is making headlines on a daily basis, as far away as Australia, for all the wrong reasons. And the longer this standoff goes on, the worse the situation will become, with more than 4,000 tonnes of rubbish being added to the current 21,000 on a weekly basis.
Well, my honourable friend, give way.
Of course.
My honourable friend, making an excellent speech and demonstrating yet again what a powerful champion she is for her constituents and region. But I'm sure she's aware that last night on the BBC News they were reporting from Birmingham around the Prime Minister's visit, but also about the rubbish collection issue. And does she share my concerns that this sends out a very negative message to potential tourists in the global market about what's happening here in the UK just now?
Thank you, Mr Stringer. My honourable friend makes a really, really important point here. And I'm just about to come on to this because the reputation of a city, of a country, is so important when we're trying to attract inward investment and grow our economy. And it's only 3 years ago that under the leadership of Andy Street, who was the then mayor, Birmingham and the wider West Midlands was being showcased as the host of the Commonwealth Games. And now, 3 years on, it feels like we're being showcased for all the wrong reasons, as a basket case because of a bankrupt council that can't empty their own bins. Now, under the previous Labour leadership of Birmingham, before he was unceremoniously dispatched by the National Executive Committee, we were promised a golden decade. Well, it's really disappointing because if that was the case, and this is what the golden decade is, I can only despair. And it's important also not to forget this is the second time in only 7 years that we've had bin strikes on our doorstep in Birmingham. And I think, residents really do feel enough is enough. The public health emergency, because that's what it is now, has to end. Not just for the residents of Birmingham, but for residents in my constituency, those who are bordering Birmingham, who are feeling its effects. Now, I know that my own local council are looking at as indeed other neighbouring councils are looking at ways to assist Birmingham. But I do feel this would just be putting a sticking plaster on the problem, which is a problem that needs sorting out. And it would come at extra cost. So I would just like to ask the Minister today, if this were to be the case and other local authorities were helping, can we be reassured that any costs incurred would be funded by the government or Birmingham City Council? Because I don't feel it's the job of my local taxpayers to be funding the clean-up of Birmingham's streets in Labour Council's streets in Birmingham. Now, on fly tipping specifically, the challenges posed, I think we would all agree, are significant. However, it's heartening to see that proactive leadership can make a real difference. And so I don't want to just speak about Birmingham. I actually want to highlight some good work that has been done when it comes to fly tipping, because I think this is equally important. Because in stark contrast to that situation in Birmingham, where residents are enduring the ongoing bin strikes, Walsall Council has really been demonstrating outstanding commitment to keeping their communities, our communities, clean and safe. And I pay tribute to the leadership there and to all the staff as well. Because under Conservative leadership, Walsall has taken decisive action to combat fly tipping and improve waste management. And I think the results really speak for themselves. Walsall's operational teams work tirelessly to ensure that waste is collected efficiently with one of the highest performance rates in the country. And over the past year, the council has successfully completed 7 million bin collections on time, achieving an outstanding success rate of 99.96%. And in a climate where some councils are failing to maintain basic services, it's only fair that we recognise that this level of dedication and public service is a testament to the commitment of the team in Walsall. And by keeping our streets clean, Walsall isn't just ensuring a healthier environment, it's enhancing the quality of life for residents, it's supporting local businesses and making the area a more attractive place to live and work. But what's more, Walsall's really innovative approach to tackling fly tipping has, in my view, been nothing short of remarkable. And I just want to share a couple of examples. So take, for example, the Environmental Crime Scene project, which has delivered tangible, long-lasting results. It was launched in February 2023, and the initiative treats fly-tipped areas as crime scenes to deter illegal dumping. Since its introduction, Mr Stringer, reports of bulky waste fly tipping have plummeted from 40 to just 5 a day, and up to 70% of fly tips have been removed by the perpetrators in some of our local wards. And the Environmental Crime Scene project has really sent out a clear message: fly tipping will not be tolerated in Walsall. The council has also organised a range of events bringing together councillors and volunteers to tackle fly tipping hotspots across the borough. Thanks to an incredible network of dedicated litter pickers, over 67,000 bags of rubbish have been collected across the whole of the borough in the past 5 years. Now, I hate to imagine what size a mountain of bags that is, but that is quite some rubbish that has been collected by litter pickers who've been doing this on a voluntary basis. And in my Aldridge Brown Hills constituency, I know of groups such as the Pelsall Wombles, the Walsall Wood Wombles, the Feasy Park Farm Pickers. I was out with them on Sunday. You know, so many individuals, so many community groups, the Friends of Streetley Library, who are really making a difference. And it's been really heartwarming as well to see our local schools get involved in the Great British Spring Clean initiative and other initiatives. Pelsall Village School have been involved. And just as I was walking over to Westminster Hall this afternoon, I noticed that Shire Oak Academy had taken part in the Great Big School Clean-up. Now, I hadn't even come across that initiative before, but I thought what a really good way of encouraging the next generation to take part. Because,
Honourable Frank, have we?
yes, of course.
I'm grateful. She's been very, very generous with her time. I really spent spent some time with the Keeping Duns blooming marvellous group picking up litter around Duns, and there's dozens of groups across the Scottish borders doing similar work. But does she share my view that, while she's right to highlight the great work that Conservative-led councils are achieving, very often it's in partnership with voluntary groups and volunteers that they're able to achieve such success?
And my honourable friend makes a really important point here, and I know there are some beautiful villages in the Scottish border. I've been fortunate to visit many on many occasions. But he highlights that how these community-led initiatives haven't just improved local cleanliness, but they also really help foster a strong culture of environmental awareness, of education and civic pride. And it is this proactive and community-focused approach that sets Walsall apart from the ongoing challenges faced by neighbouring areas, where waste management issues continue to spiral. Walsall's model should be a beacon of best practice for other local authorities to follow. Now, Mr Stringer, turning back to the national picture, when we were in government, we took decisive action to tackle the scourge of fly tipping. Under the Antisocial Behaviour Action Plan, we increased the upper limit of on-the-spot fines for fly tipping to £1,000 in July 2023. We also supported local authorities to better deliver for their communities. In 2022, we launched the Fly Tipping Grant Scheme, which awarded £450,000 to crack down on fly tipping in local communities. Following the success of measures including roadside CCTV, social media campaigns and targeted surveillance at hotspot areas, we almost doubled the amount of funding available for councils in 2023 to £775,000. And I know in Walsall the use of CCTV has made a big difference in some of the fly tipping hotspots. And then last May in government we went further. We announced a third round of grants which would see 26 local authorities across England benefit from a share of almost £1 million, with individual grants of up to £50,000. Now, I know there's always more that we can do. The work isn't finished yet because the litter and the fly tipping is still out there. So I'd like to ask the Minister today what plans there are to build on the successes of the grant scheme, and if he's able to announce a fourth round. Well, perhaps Birmingham may be able to take advantage of that if there was another round. In 2024, our manifesto pledged to punish the polluters by making fly tipping an offence that carries penalty points against your driving licence. I think this is a sensible measure that would introduce a further deterrent by directly linking fly tipping to driving penalties. And I do believe that we need to give further consideration to this type of action. Individuals and businesses would think twice about offending if they risked losing the ability to drive or some points on their licence. It may even allow us to deter those who may choose to absorb the costs of a fine. And we have the forthcoming crime and policing bill, and I think this is a golden opportunity to implement this type of reform. And I know that my honourable friend, the member for Stockton West, the Shadow Minister, has tabled, I believe, an amendment at Bill Committee on this piece of legislation. And I know that the Minister of State for Crime, Policing and Fire said she would ask her DEFRA counterpart to consider the benefits of enabling endorsement with penalty points for fly tippers. It was also interesting, I was reading a report prepared by Policy Exchange called Litterbugs 2. I'm sure the Minister will have seen it, or probably his officials have, in which it calls for higher penalties and a local authority league table. And this is interesting, a national litter awareness course. I think these are all worthy ideas that we need to continue to explore, because we cannot just rely on volunteer litter groups. We cannot just rely on councils. Government can't do everything. It really needs a cross-government, multi-layered approach. So I'd be grateful if the Minister could enlighten us today on his view on this matter. And I'm sure that he shares my desire to see some sensible reforms that strengthen the deterrence against fly tipping. And I personally would like to see that extended to litter as well, because try as I might, I've yet to really find a clear definition of the difference between fly tipping and litter. So let's tackle it all in one go. Now, on a recent litter pick in my own constituency, I also couldn't help but notice that litter was being thrown just indiscriminately out of vehicles, hence my previous point. And members of a local litter picking group at the weekend were asking very pertinent questions around slip roads to highways. And if he hasn't noticed already, and I'm sure he probably has, I would suggest to the Minister, if you're travelling or driving around, take notice of the vast quantities of litter and fly tipping that we often see on the sides of roads or on the slip roads going onto motorways. And some clarity as to who is responsible. Is it councils? Is it Highways England? Is it the same approach right across the country? And as I come towards the conclusion of my contribution today, Mr Stringer, I think it's also time that we properly recognise the incredible work of volunteers. My honourable friend, the member for Meriden, has rightly highlighted with me the importance of providing funding to local parish councils and encouraging collaboration with local businesses, particularly to support the installation of more ANPR cameras to deter and catch offenders. But I wonder whether we could actually look at some greater recognition for some of these individuals, maybe some through the honours system, which I think could do so much more to inspire and reward people at the grassroots level. Could we have some way of recognising some litter champions, those individuals and groups who go above and beyond in their communities? They deserve more than a thank you. A lot of them wouldn't expect it, but they do so much good work. And in Walsall Borough, we are proud. We have over 1,000 registered volunteers. We have 9 community litter picking hubs where residents can sign up and collect equipment. There is a huge amount of good work happening at the grassroots level. But government must play its part too. We cannot expect councils and volunteers to carry the full weight of this challenge alone. So, to conclude, I have a few asks for the Minister. He'd be disappointed, I'm sure, if I didn't. But I genuinely think, and sitting in a DEFRA questions in the main chamber the other week, there was so much cross-party support for tackling this problem. There must be some way that we can move this agenda forward. So what I'm asking for is, can we have a national debate and a clear action plan that leads to real, measurable delivery that makes a difference to our communities? Would you consider the appointment of a litter and fly tipping champion in government to lead a joined-up cross-departmental approach? And I can assure you I'm not bidding for that job, but I do think that that role could be a really important one, rather like we have champions and we have envoys in other departments. A strong commitment to education and a zero-tolerance strategy, because it is so important that we shift public behaviour, because that is what a lot of this is about. Shifting public behaviour and attitudes towards fly tipping and litter. It is not acceptable to drop litter. And finally, on enforcement. We need to move beyond warm words and see concrete actions to tackle this costly and persistent blight on our communities. So with the promised 13,000 extra police officers, maybe that extra resource can be used to tackle this nationwide problem. But thank you, Mr Stringer.
Yeah. Members, if they wish to be called, they should bob. The question is that this House has considered the impact of fly tipping on communities in the West Midlands. Lawrence Turner.
Thank you very much, Mr Stringer. It's a pleasure to serve under your chairship, and I'd like to start by congratulating the Right Honourable Member for Aldridge Brownhills on securing today's debate, and we'll talk about some of the issues that she raised, specifically in relation to Birmingham, but this is an issue which attracts attention in every region and indeed is an issue across the West Midlands region, as she rightly said. I'd like to also pay tribute to some of the volunteer groups in my constituency, such as the Rubery-Wombles, who do excellent work. And just this weekend, I joined a community litter pick to clear one of the walkways off Tor Avenue in Northfield, which had accumulated a volume of fly-tipped litter that didn't come about through a particular organised group. It was simply residents getting in contact and suggesting that we come together to take matters into our own hands and clear that waste. I thought she also raised some really very valid points about those areas where there is an overlap in responsibility between national agencies such as National Highways and local authorities, and some of the problems that can arise at those points, which I'm sure is familiar to all of us through our constituency casework. I will just say, and working with the right honourable member on other areas, she started by talking about who was in the chamber. Just in case it wasn't clear for the parliamentary record, I would just like to point out that not only am I standing here as a Birmingham City MP, that of the 3 political parties that are represented at a parliamentary level in the City of Birmingham, it is only Labour that is represented in this debate today. But this debate is very timely. I'll very happily give way.
At the time, I did apologise forgive me for forgetting you were North Birmingham, Northfield. I won't do that again. But just on that point about balance, I am a Conservative with a West Midlands seat, and the Conservative Party is represented in this debate. There's also my honourable friend he may be a Scottish Conservative, but I'm not going to hold that against him, and he's part of this debate too.
Well, of course, she's exactly right to say that there is West Midlands Conservative Party representation. I'm merely making a point about the city. Now, we don't have the same figures for the region, but nationally, fly tipping incidents rose by, I believe, 37% between 2010-11 and 2023-24. And for the West Midlands, where records start a little later, we can say that the rate of increase has been higher. The number of fly tipping incidents that are recorded rose by 80% between 2012-13 and 23-24. And in fact, within the City of Birmingham, that rate of increase was lower until we got to this current very difficult period of industrial dispute. So this is an issue in communities across the whole region. And I do see that in my constituency. As I was saying just yesterday, residents and users of Bell Holloway in Northfield, which is a arterial route in the constituency, found that the road had been closed due to fly tipping in nearby woodland, which is not the first time that such incidents have happened on that particular road. And through my constituency postbag, I've picked up a large number of very serious recurring cases across the constituency. There is a set of flats in the Longbridge area where there is some confusion over land ownership, and it seems that organised groups are taking advantage of this grey area to repeatedly fly tip at this location. And I know that this is a serious problem on private land, in particular when landowners may not have the resources to respond to regular and large volume fly tipping. My office, and I'd like to pay tribute to everyone who works in my office, because while as MPs we individually do take up casework, of course it is the people who work for us who take on much of the heavy load. Have cleared regular fly tipping in Wheelie Castle car park, and I've also helped to secure permanent physical adaptations at a site on the Frankley estate, which has helped to deter repeat fly tipping. And just turning to the strike in Birmingham, we have seen just this morning a very unfortunate incident where the mobile waste centres which are sent out around the city, which sadly over the last week have become the subject of some misinformation about when and where these mobile centres will be deployed. We found that on Varden Way in Kings Norton, that overnight a very large number of black bagged waste was dumped at that site, which will, of course, reduce the capacity for residents who do attend that mobile service at the advertised time. And I would like to pay tribute to Councillor Corrigan, who I've worked, Councillor Corrigan for Kings Norton North, who I've worked closely with over the last 24 hours to make sure that that waste was cleared. I will give way.
Coming from Birmingham. I'm sure the honourable member probably watched the pictures himself, but there were scenes of the the refuge trucks trying to leave the council depot to go and collect rubbish, but being stopped by Unite trade unionists, blocking the trucks from leaving the depot and then slow walking in front of the refuge trucks so they could not do their collections. Will the honourable member do the right thing and condemn the actions of those trade unionists and stand up for his constituents who want their rubbish collected by those trucks?